Stop watering your lavender. I know that sounds insane. You probably just bought a beautiful lavender plant, brought it home, gave it the same loving care you give your tomatoes, and watched it turn gray, woody, and dead by the end of summer. You're not a bad gardener. You're treating a desert plant like a vegetable. I've watched this happen in my own yard. I've watched it happen to my neighbor, a retired chemistry teacher who can grow anything except, somehow, the one plant she loved most. She lost 3 lavenders in 3 years. Then one afternoon she came back from a trip to southern France and said, "I finally understand. They don't water it. They don't feed it. They just leave it alone in the worst soil they have. Today, I'm going to show you 5 secrets that keep lavender alive for 10 to 15 years instead of dying in one season." Real research from the USDA, Washington State University, and the Royal Horticultural Society. 3 mistakes that are killing yours right now, and 1 trick from southern France that you can copy with a $2 bag of pea gravel from any hardware store. By the end of this video, you'll be able to walk outside, look at your lavender, and know in 30 seconds whether it's going to survive the winter, and exactly what to do tonight to make sure it does. Stay with me, because secret number 1 is the one almost every garden center gets wrong, and secret number 5 is the one that lets you forget about your lavender for an entire month and come back to find it thriving. Here's the real problem. Lavender is not a garden plant. It's a Mediterranean shrub. It evolved on the rocky, alkaline hillsides of southern France, Spain, and the Greek coast. Soil so poor that most American vegetables would die in it within 3 weeks. According to the USDA plant hardiness data and Washington State University Extension publications on woody perennials, Lavandula angustifolia, true English lavender, is adapted to soils with a pH between 6.7 and 7.5, sharp drainage, and roughly 12 to 24 inches of annual rainfall, total, for the entire year. Now look at what we do to it. We plant it in dark, rich potting mix. We mulch it with bark. We water it when the leaves look dry. We feed it. And every one of those acts of love is killing it. Here's what botanists call xerophyte stress adaptation. The biological mechanism where plants evolved for drought actually require dry conditions to activate their defense compounds and woody growth. When you overwater lavender, you don't just risk root rot. You shut down the chemistry that makes the plant survive winter. The essential oils in the leaves, the same oils you smell when you brush past it, are produced as a stress response. Comfortable lavender is dying lavender. The garden center hands you a 4-inch pot with peat-based soil, a tag that says, "Full sun, water regularly," and sends you home. That tag is wrong, and it's why Americans replace their lavender every year while it grows wild for decades along the back roads of Provence. Grab a pen. 5 secrets in order. Each one targets a specific mechanism your lavender needs. Secret number 5. The soil. Not what you add to it, what you take away from it. Most gardeners build lavender soil the way they build tomato soil. Compost, peat moss, organic matter. Stop. Lavender's root system evolved to hunt for water in mineral soil, sand, gravel, crushed limestone. When you give it rich organic soil, the roots stay shallow because there's no reason to push deep. Then, a wet week kills it. The recipe is the opposite of every other garden bed you'll ever build. 1 part native garden soil, 1 part coarse sand, builder's sand from a hardware store, not play sand. 1 part pea gravel or crushed limestone. Total cost for 1 plant, about $4. The bag of premium lavender potting mix at the garden center, $14 to $18. Mix it loose. When you squeeze a handful, it should fall apart immediately. If it holds its shape like a tomato bed, you've added too much organic matter. Start over. Now the pH. According to Clemson Extension's Home and Garden Information Center, lavender performs best between pH 6.7 and 7.5, slightly alkaline. Most American backyard soil sits between 5.5 and 6.5, which is acidic. That's why your lavender looks pale and stressed even when nothing else is obviously wrong. Test it with a $5 kit. If you're below 6.7, work in 2 tablespoons of garden lime per square foot. Wait 2 weeks before planting. Secret number 4, the watering rule that sounds like neglect. A 2019 review of Mediterranean ornamental research, summarized in Hort Technology, documented that established lavender survived 60-day drought periods with no measurable decline in plant vigor. 60 days. No water. The plants that died in those trials were the ones receiving regular irrigation. Here's the rule. For the first 6 weeks after planting, water deeply once a week. After that, only water when the top 3 inches of soil are bone dry, and even then, only during the first growing season. After year 1, an established lavender in well-drained soil should not need supplemental watering at all in most of the United States, except during extreme drought. This is the moment my neighbor cried. By the way, 3 years of killing lavender with kindness. The chemistry teacher who could explain ionic bonds to teenagers had been drowning her plants every Saturday morning because that's what the tag said. If this is changing how you think about lavender, hit subscribe. We do this kind of myth-busting every week. Secret number 3, sun, airflow, and the spacing rule almost nobody follows. Lavender needs a minimum of 6 hours of direct sun. 8 is better. But sun alone isn't enough. The plant also needs airflow. Without it, humidity builds up inside the foliage, fungal pathogens establish, and the woody base begins to rot from the inside out. What Penn State Extension calls crown rot, the single most common cause of midsummer lavender death. The fix is spacing. Plant lavenders at least 24 inches apart. For full-sized varieties like Provence or Grosso, make it 36. I know that feels too far when you're staring at small 4-inch pots. Trust the spacing. 2 years from now, those gaps will close, and the airflow you preserved will be the reason your plants are still alive. If you garden in a humid region, anywhere east of the Mississippi, basically, add a 2-inch layer of light-colored gravel mulch around the base of each plant. Not bark? Never bark. Bark holds moisture against the crown and traps the exact humidity you're trying to escape. Light-colored gravel reflects heat up into the foliage and keeps the soil surface dry. This is what botanists call a xeric mulch, a mulch designed to dry the plant zone, not retain moisture. Secret number 2, the pruning cut that decides whether your lavender lives or dies. Here is the single biggest mistake I see, and almost no garden center will warn you about it. Lavender has a woody base and soft green growth on top. The woody part, what botanists call old wood, does not regenerate. If you cut into it, that branch is dead forever. A 2017 Royal Horticultural Society pruning study on Lavandula angustifolia documented that plants pruned correctly for 3 consecutive years lived an average of 12 to 15 years. Plants pruned into old wood, or not pruned at all, lived an average of 4 to 5 years. The pruning cut alone tripled the plant's lifespan. Here's the rule. Prune twice a year. First cut, right after the first flowering wave, usually late June or early July, depending on your USDA zone. Second cut, late August or early September. Never later, because new growth needs time to harden before frost. Each cut removes the top 1/3 of the green growth. never the woody base. The shape you're aiming for is a tight green dome. If you can see brown, woody stems through the foliage, you've gone too far. Back off and let the plant recover. This is the cut that southern French farmers have been making for generations. Same plant, same shape, same lifespan. American gardeners skip the August cut entirely, and that's why their plants get leggy, split open in the middle, and die in their 5th year. Secret number 1, and this is the one that lets you walk away for a month. Mulch with gravel, not organic matter. Specifically, 3 to 4 inches of pea gravel or crushed white limestone in a circle 18 inches around each plant. Here's what happens at the soil level when you do this. The gravel reflects sunlight up into the lower foliage, which evaporates surface moisture before fungi can colonize. It heats the root zone in spring, triggering earlier growth. It suppresses weeds without holding moisture. And during winter, it acts as thermal mass, releasing absorbed daytime heat slowly through cold nights, raising the local soil temperature by 2 to 4 degrees Fahrenheit. Penn State Extension and Cornell Cooperative Extension both reference inorganic mulch as the standard for Mediterranean herbs in continental climates. It's not aesthetic preference, it's the mechanism that lets one plant survive a Pennsylvania winter, while another, planted the same week 3 feet away in bark mulch, dies in February. Cost, about $5 for a 50-pound bag of pea gravel, enough to mulch 4 lavender plants. The Lavender Care Kit at the Garden Center, $35 to $50, full of products you don't need. Now, 3 mistakes that will undo every secret above. Mistake 1. Fertilizing. Lavender does not want fertilizer. Period. According to UC Davis Department of Plant Sciences research on Mediterranean ornamentals, fertilized lavender produces longer, weaker stems, fewer essential oils, and a shorter flowering window. If you've been feeding your lavender, stop. The plant will recover within 1 season. Mistake 2. Winter cleanup. Do not cut lavender back in fall or winter. The dead-looking foliage on top is actually insulating the woody base from frost damage. Cut in late summer, then leave the plant alone until spring. The number of lavenders killed by tidy gardeners doing fall cleanup is, according to Cornell's Home Horticulture Extension data, one of the top 3 causes of lavender loss in northern zones. Mistake 3. The wrong variety for your zone. Lavandula angustifolia, English lavender, is hardy down to USDA Zone 5. Lavandula stoechas, Spanish lavender, only goes to Zone 8. Lavandula cross intermedia, French hybrids like Provence and Grasso, sit at Zone 6. Buying the wrong species for your zone is buying an annual disguised as a perennial. Read the tag, check your USDA zone, match them. Now let me be honest with you about limitations. This system works in well-drained soil. If you garden on heavy clay, or in a low spot where water collects after rain, no amount of gravel and pruning will save your lavender. You need a raised bed or a large container, minimum 16 inches deep, to lift the root system above the wet zone. It also doesn't work in hardiness zones colder than 5 for English lavender, or Zone 6 for the French hybrids. Below those thresholds, lavender is a container plant you bring into an unheated garage for winter. And one safety note, lavender essential oil, while generally safe for humans, can cause mild digestive upset in cats and dogs if they chew the foliage in quantity. According to ASPCA animal poison control data, the risk is mild, but if your pets are persistent chewers, plant lavender out of reach. Picture this. 5 years from now, you walk out into your yard in late June. The lavender you planted this season has grown into a tight green dome the size of a basketball, covered in purple spikes, humming with bees. You haven't watered it in 3 years. You haven't fed it once. You prune it twice a summer in 10 minutes. Your neighbors ask what you're doing differently. You shrug and tell them what my chemistry teacher neighbor finally figured out after losing 3 plants. The secret was doing less, not more. She's been growing the same lavender bush for 7 years now. Same plant, same spot, same gravel mulch she put down in year 2. She doesn't fuss over it anymore. She just walks past it on her way to the mailbox and clips a sprig for her kitchen windowsill. That's the whole game. You're not growing a vegetable. You're keeping a Mediterranean shrub on a small patch of imitation Provence in your American backyard. The plant already knows how to live for 15 years. You just have to stop loving it to death. Here's your action step this week. It's specific. Walk outside today, before sunset, and check 3 things on your existing lavender plant. 1. Push your finger 3 inches into the soil at the base. If it's damp, stop watering immediately for at least 10 days. 2. Look at the mulch around the plant. If it's bark, wood chips, or compost, rake it away this weekend and replace it with a 3-inch layer of pea gravel from the hardware store, about $5. 3. Find a small twig at the base of the plant and bend it. If it snaps cleanly and is brown inside, that's old wood. Mark it. Never cut into that zone again. 3 checks, 10 minutes. Possibly the difference between losing this lavender by August and keeping it alive for the next decade. Drop a comment and tell me, what USDA zone are you in? And what variety of lavender are you trying to keep alive? I read every single one, and the zone by variety question is the one I get most often. Your answer might shape the next video. Now go check your soil. Your lavender is waiting.